some ideas, and we'll do some work. But I just want to point out some things first. And while we're here and talking about holes in that, one of them is I really like this gate design. With the gates here,
Thank you.
You can open it up. It makes it a lot easier for mowing and everything else. And if you got into the dragging, which I think should be that you drag the surface after you mow every time, at least a couple times a year. But the bollards are just tough. Whenever you have an emergency, it's mostly in bad weather. There's just more of a frequency. So if you have a snowstorm or an ice storm and you have a bollard there and you have several inches of snow, lots of times you're just spending time to dig it out. It may be frozen to just get it to go one way or the other. So that's I'm encouraging everyone to go away from the bollard, go towards gates that you can go right through the middle so you can open it up and you're taking your maintenance equipment and everything else right down the middle. It just makes everything smoother. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be here, but one of the places we decided to have it here because we wanted to discuss a little bit about an established trail and how things can be designed better. Because if they're designed better, they're easier to maintain. And I think part of our problem is everything's just difficult to maintain because the engineers don't look at, they look at construction and how much that's going to be. And if you had in a contract that an engineering firm had to maintain it for the first 2 years after it was designed and put in, I think you'd have a lot better designs. But I don't think we can get to that. So, you know, part of what I try to do with Steffi Trail Connections is work with organizations, be it nonprofit or municipality or someone else, with the engineers to tell them we want things that can easily be maintained and what can they do. You know, one of the big things is what you're getting accomplished here is a high canopy. The high canopy, you don't get as many invasives growing. The vegetation doesn't grow as fast, and it just makes things a lot easier for trail users to use. It's a little cooler. Things can be maintained a little bit better. But with the lower branches, if you're the mower, why, they're probably one of the biggest problems. And it's just not the branches, it's the bugs that are on the branches, the bees that are around the branches. So looking at, can we more easily, when we're building it, make it a little bit wider, go up a little higher so these branches don't grow up and come down. So we can look at that a little bit more also. So I think I want to look in this way and look at the parking area first. And as you come up to here, and look at it as a trail user. And I realize that many of you maintain this trail, and I don't mean to discourage anything there, but what improvements can be made so that this is more welcoming for trail users to come here and say, oh, this is where I want to park and start from. So
Fill in the potholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of an obvious one is to get the water. And I think we'll spend some time, even try to get the water drained off of there. Because if the water stays there, every time a car goes through there, it gets deeper. Because there's a little bit of silt at the bottom. It hits that, throws water out, throws out some of the silt, and it just makes it, even if it's a millimeter more, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And another thing I see here at the parking area, that when it was first designed, it may be designed to hold, I don't know, 25 cars or something like that. But if you're going to design it, you need to maintain it so that you don't have the vegetation growing in from the ends. And again, how can you more easily take care of that vegetation? If you look right here where I'm parked, if I'm a trail user, part of my truck is blocking there. And if someone was parked, say that this was full and everyone was parked, someone would come in and park there, then someone would park next to me, maybe someone on this side, then how am I going to get out of there? That, you know, again, it goes back to the engineering and design. What may be in a CAD system and what they put down from day one, a year later with vegetation and everything else, is it still usable? So I think those are some of the questions we need to do. How much length, how much width do we need to maintain there, so that if we encourage more people to come here, that there is a lot of parking. And I see this as one of the top things with parking. The other thing is this may need some bigger material, simply because it's sort of the same material here. And it does get very sloppy whenever it's wet, and especially in the spring whenever the snow melts and everything, and everything just tracks out onto the road then with the vehicles. One thing, my wife's not here, but I know the one thing my wife would mention would be a porta potty, and I see more and more places that are having porta potties at places here, and they're actually hiring someone to put a porta potty there and service it once a week. And that becomes a big expense. But if you advertise the porta potty as being there, you get lots of donations to take care of the porta potty for the year.
We put one on our property and kept it there for the summer, but I think we were worried about putting it back by the trail just in case it got vandalized or something like that. I mean, a lot of people go that way. People go this way to about Simmons Road. That's about it. They don't go any further. Here, I think it would get vandalized. If on our property, if we put it to the very back of the property and even had a sign that said trail users, it was $100 a month, which isn't that expensive. And he comes and pumps it out.
Yeah.
And so we kept it for the summer last year. But
they'll put it just inside the gate where the guy can still pump it or have access to it, but it's sort of in an area where it's visible. You can even put a camera, even if the camera doesn't work, onto it. That vandalism, I think, you may have something at first, but it goes less and less, especially if you're paying a company to come and keep it clean and everything else.
Question, Juan, I know you do a lot in the Spartanburg Trail. I know they have some porta potties right there at their trailhead, right there in town. Of course, as in town, do they experience a lot of vandalism, a lot of hooliganism, you know what I mean, where people go in and just try to do whatever they do in there? Do they have pretty good luck with that?
I haven't heard anything right at Spartanburg, but other places, if you let it get dirty, it gets filthy. Filthy. So that's where, if you get someone that's coming to pump it out once a week, twice a week, but they're coming just like a state park or something.
Right.
That if there's regular maintenance on it and people see that it's being maintained, it's somewhat like garbage along a road. If someone's starting to throw litter out at one place, then all of a sudden that litter multiplies, and it's sort of the same way with the porta potties. That once they get dirty, they really get dirty. So, and I think enough people have respect for it, and know how crucial it is.
When people park down on 426, it's about a mile and a half from there to here. So it's kind of, I think that's, like John said, I think it's probably midway where people walk. Of course, I know Marty's got counters and he can tell you where the greatest concentration is. But a lot of times I see people walking from town, because I normally start here because I walk with a dog. So I normally start here, but I see a lot of people come here and turn around and go back.
Yeah. That's because they have to pee, so they have to go back.
Well, this is about a mile and a half from the 426 parking area.
do you think it's something we should have there year round?
Well, more and more places are having it year round simply because it costs more to pick it up and take it away and put it there. And in the winter times, a lot of companies will say, just call me when I need to do it, and I'll just charge instead of the monthly rate. I'll just charge to come and clean it. Right. So I think that's part of how much is this being used, and if you have something that's promoted as donations, see what you're getting for donations, and if people really want it, then there's going to be the donations, and that's sort of a feedback of how important it is for people to have. There used to be more signage here, and it was probably vandalized. But to have simple signage, and what I've gone a lot is just the metal signs that I get stickers made and I can put on it. That they're a lot cheaper. But just tell them, especially if you build a boardwalk over the beaver dam, how far is it to the beaver dam? How far is it to the restroom? How
Right.
far is it to Corry?
Yeah.
And just let people know, and even some simple maps that can be updated. That
You could put a
you know,
kiosk. You could put a kiosk with a map in it,
yeah,
and give the mileage. Each point through there.
because that's what people
You can put something like that
want
in
to
here
know, sort of.
somewhere.
First of all, when they
Yeah.
come here, they want to know, well, where exactly am I? Am I welcomed here?
Right.
So I think having a little bit of signage, and no one likes rules, but sometimes the rules there sort of establish, yes, someone's being responsible, and this is what they want done.
Right.
So let me. I think these are great places to get out of storms and that. But didn't these have seating at one time? Never had seating. And there's no benches up along here, but I think
One.
is there?
There's some picnic tables, but there's one bench an Eagle Scout put in on the other side of Simmons Road.
Okay.
Down in there, which is, I would like to see something like that, even if somebody wanted to do it in memory of somebody, put a campaign out and do it that style. It's a poly metal, it's a metal frame concreted in with a poly seat,
Yeah.
poly slats.
Yeah.
They're about that
Like
thick.
that.
Yeah.
And some groups of we're letting people decide where they want them. Where I think it's always better is for the trail group to decide where's the scenic views that you want people to be able to go to and rest, even if it's a distance to go to. That people don't want to pick out as much, or willing to donate in memory of someone or in honor of someone. The hard part's maintaining them, and I see so many of them with weeds. What I used to do is make it like a turnoff, is make like a half circle, put them in the middle of the half circle, and whatever the trail surface was, have it go behind them, so whoever's mowing can simply go around and you're not doing any weed eating, because you can't keep up with the weed eating. And that's, people say, well, it only takes a couple minutes to do it. Yeah, a couple minutes at this place, and then driving down to the next place and weed eating. So even around the gates and that, the more that you can make it the same material as here and maintain it and do less and less weed eating, then people just say, well, look, this seems to be well maintained. And
I think if people see it maintained, I think they take a little bit better care of it.
right. It goes with everything. And I think what I want to do is we'll go down and work on the water down there, but let's just take a walk up here where I did a little bit of work earlier. There's some things I want to point out. As you walk on the trail, it's just how you two are standing. You don't want to walk single file
Yeah, no.
going up. You want next to each other. But if you have a bicycle, you're moving off to the side. And here we're only about 6 feet wide. That you can, 1, 2, 6 feet wide, but it was built 10 feet wide. So you can see, I took the dirt off of here. That's limestone. That lighter stuff is limestone. You can see where it ends right there. And the same thing over there. So this is just accumulated, and a lot of this comes from different things. Every time you mow it, if you don't drag it and clean the debris off it, it's sitting right here. And that debris will sit here, and a seed will come to here and say, this is a great place to grow. I've got limestone, I've got organic material, and this is what I see with limestone trails, that they get narrower and narrower and narrower. But if you drag it, and you drag that material off, you keep it wide, and you can see how much of a difference the two people can easily walk on both sides and pass each other. So we put a lot of money into building things 10 feet wide, and I think that's a minimum of what we should be making, is a 10-foot wide trail, simply to allow people to walk next to each other. And even with biking, it's a little easier when you're passing someone to go single file. But look at what are we building to? Let's try to maintain it. And you can see right now, half of our mowing on each side is just the trail, where we should have trail right here with the limestone. So, you know, trying to think of ways, what can we do that the material is taken off, and just a light drag a couple times a year, especially after it's mowing. I was going to get to that too, that what happens is the grass is here and then the leaves, but again, a slight dragging of the leaves, and most of the time you can drag the leaves off, and it may get into here. Just watch where you step there. There's a bunch of dog crap. But just taking the leaves off, especially in November. If it goes through the winter, the seeds just don't get established as much on there because they can't hide during the winter. A lot of seeds need to have that freezing though, but it just seems like in the springtime there's less that's growing if you get the leaves off. Plus the surface will dry a lot quicker too. If you also notice, you can see that this is a dip somewhat in here because of all the leaves that have built in here, and all that dark brown's probably leaves that have decomposed, and you end up with a trough here. So in the springtime, and even after a storm, water lays in here, where you can see even right here, it'll go off to the side. That has a little bit more of a taper to it than this side. But again, that's sort of what you want to be able to do in taking off these sticks and that. And it doesn't take a hard drag. It just, you can even do it with an ATV with something behind it. Just you can take a 6x6 and some chain and angle it a little bit, and it's a quick and efficient way to be able to maintain it.
I came down here with our snowmobile drag, and it's got blades.
Yeah.
It's got a pan in the back. The only problem was I got too much material.
Yeah.
Couldn't get rid of the material.
Yeah.
You know, and that got to be the problem. Now you can see this part right here is clear. I came through here with a backhoe and took the hump out. You know, I just got the front bucket down to where. So this is a bucket width. Is
Yeah.
why, you know, I could have moved over and made another pass on each side. But you can see, you know, as I went down through here, can't go much further down on this.
Right, and that's whenever you drag it, you don't want to get a lot of material. You just you want to just take the top of it off. But you bring up a good point that if it's 6 foot wide or whatever, that's almost perfect to do one side than the other. But you have to get it to that point. Once it gets to here, it's hard to get it back out. And sometimes in the very early spring, late winter, that's a good time to just try to take some of this off. Then
we're getting I don't know if we're getting a box, drag box.
Yeah.
It has tines, or you can just use the box. That works pretty good, but same deal. You got to get rid of the material.
Yeah, it may help to get this, but one thing you don't want to do is pull up a lot of material because you're going to take it away. So sometimes something lighter, like a 6x6 may be more efficient than taking something heavier. But you may need something heavier to take off these edges here because it's been concentrated more in the middle. Once we get the trail out to this point right here, you can see where, you know, if you're starting here and you're measuring, okay, about a shovel is what we was able to mow here. So if you're doing it here, then all of a sudden you have a lot more branches and vegetation that you have to cut back. And this again is a honeysuckle, so I just cut it the whole way back. But if we're looking at trying to have the vegetation and up higher, it's easier for the person to mow. And yes, the Snowmobile Club has a tractor that has
brush hog.
Yeah, well, the one
tilt sideways.
That'll tilt sideways. but it's limited. This is starting to get pretty big for it to be able to cut. Plus, it leaves it all ragged in that. So I think in the wintertime, it's good to, how high can you trim? And, you know, I mostly try to get 20 feet high. That's because I do a lot of work with tailgating limestone onto the trail. So, like I said last week, I try to go 20 feet high. But even if you're going 12 feet high or so, that's going to be okay for most tractors. But you can see if nothing's done here, this is already grown out. And if nothing's done in 2 years, this will probably be about right to here and growing. And it's going to, with the higher people that are on bicycles, it's going to interfere with it.
Well, what I've come to notice is you're pruning them, and then they go for the light, so they seem to grow more.
Well,
without cutting them back.
That's where the high canopy is. But one thing you don't want to do you don't want to cut it right there, because then you get 2 branches that are coming.
Yes.
Get it right back to the trunk. Get it back to the trunk, and then it's in more shade.
Yep.
And then it's not going to have that it's going to want to grow as much. But that's again where you try to get the high canopy. And there you can see a tree down there that's starting to come up over. So if you do those lower branches and leave the branches on the other side, it still has the shade and it doesn't stimulate it. Because anytime you prune it, then the tree says, "Oh, I've got to start new growth somewhere."
Oh, yeah.
So you got to work with it and be smart of how you do that. We're going to soon go back. I'm going to put my tailgate up. We're going to soon go back up, or go up to the beaver dam, and then we can work in the water when we come back. But I want to point out one other thing here, the dangers of people mowing. Say John was mowing up through here and he was going in this direction, and he's going through this honeysuckle, and he has his arm up and the honeysuckle going through here, and the next thing he knows, he's down over the hill there. Because if you're on the other side there, you don't see that at all. So that's another reason to keep that trimmed. And even though there's stones here, what I usually try to do is put some kind of obstacle here that sort of warns someone that's mowing that they're coming up onto something like that. I've never been involved where the tractor went the whole way over, but I've had it where there was one wheel here, 2 down over, and the other wheel was just sort of balancing back and forth. So this is one thing that I like to address, and there's some drainage issues down there, but I won't get into that right now. And I'll sort of point out one thing here. See how you have darker material here?
Yep.
And it's real smooth? This tells me that there's a mud puddle here a lot. And what happens is water runs to it, it evaporates, and all the little sediment that's there gives that smoother top to it.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be one place that I would address it. I know I don't have to come here in the wintertime to know that it's a dip, but then also on the sides here, you got about an inch on each side there that's just trapping the water into there, where you wanted a crown. But again, you're probably 2 feet on both sides that vegetation is overcoming.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the solution to that? Just haul in some material to help, level it out and...
Yeah, first get the vegetation off.
Mm-hmm.
Either kill it, and a lot of groups, that's the only time that they'll use some of the herbicides to kill it, but you still got to get the roots, and then just crown it. But then get your maintenance. Look how easy it's going to be for seeds to want to grow in here.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much organic material plus limestone here. And right here you can see there's not a whole lot of material. I don't fault the trail group here as much as there wasn't a good design in that, because there's not a ditch line established for the water to go to. So all the water is being funneled to here instead of, it gets lower on both sides. So make that as part of the original. Don't concentrate just on the trail surface, but where the water's going to go all the time, so that you're have a sheet flow of the storm water that flows away from the trail. But here is again where I'll put rocks about that size. and just stack them in a half moon right there, so that all this debris that's gathering right here in front of the drain, you're able to get it 8 to 10 feet away, and then you can come and clean that up instead of trying to clean this right here.
Right, because that is.
You can get into it. Right now, this would be more difficult. Where I use rock dams a lot to just catch debris, filter, and make a place where the water will pull. By the water pulling, it slows it down. Slowing it down, sediment falls out, and then it's cleaner water. Now here's a good example of sediment has come out. So for some reason it's been able to pull here, but here again where I could put a rock dam across here, and you have one place that you can easily come and access that area to be able to clean that up. And drainage can be very difficult, but I concentrate a lot on it and trying to keep the debris away from it.
Yeah.
But here's an example here of where I'd put rocks that's bigger than a fist or so, and just make sort of a curved rock dam up there so it catches the debris in that and makes a pull so that the water coming down, a lot of it filters out, and then you don't have to work right at the mouth of the, because sometimes that can be pretty tough to work at. Where if you have it 10 feet away or so, then you can easily get it with a backhoe. There's been a lot of water that's come down that it's made a little wee waterfalls, but the bigger rock has actually kept it from eroding away, but that's a good sign that there's a lot of water with a lot of velocity coming right down the trail surface.
And when you see something like that, what would be the solution?
Stop the water from getting onto here is the big thing, but then you're going to have to build this up for a crown or lower this. You have a nice ditch line, so it needs to be tapered over to there and get it so that the water is always going off. This water right here, since the surface is lower than anything around here, just from the rainfall can cause enough that it's not going to the sides at all. It's just accumulating and going down slope the whole way and building up more and more of a grade to it. So even if you clean that ditch, is there enough of a flow to keep the water flowing, or is it going to be too level that it sort of stagnates and the water doesn't go anywhere anyhow? That got to make sure that the water keeps flowing and doesn't find its way back out here. But even putting a crown on this and building it up can make more of a drain over there and help it. And it doesn't necessarily have to flow that fast, but just somewhere for water to be able to go other than the trail. I would suggest making more of a swell through here and putting river rock in here and allowing the water to flow through that river rock or under the river walk. Make a boardwalk, get yourself some concrete pads going through here, that make a place that it can be a viewing area. And you know, if you wanted to, you could help the beavers and actually build the dam over on this side so it's actually going over part of the pond, but you need to make sure that you establish your bulkheads for your...
Well, they've knocked that down a couple times. That ridge has been knocked down a couple times, Ron, and they seem to keep going back to that area.
Yeah.
They seem to keep it right along the trail. Because I was sending pictures to Marty quite frequently, and I think he sent you a couple of them. But this spring, you could see that the ridge was there, and then it wasn't there, but they keep building parallel with the trail here. So, yeah. So it's in the same area.
And this point right here, well, I take it back, about where that lady is. It's a little higher. Yeah. But it's the highest point between Simmons Road and Hereford Road. And this is almost the same height as what Simmons Road is.
Yeah.
That it's up that high. So if the railroad wasn't here, this would have all been part of the drainage that goes that way. So allow the drainage to go the way that it was going before the railroad. Just on the other side of where she is, on that where the table is, it runs that way. Yeah. There's another little spring. It needs resurfaced, and they resurface it, and it washes out. They don't look at what's the root cause of things. So that's why I like the questions you were asking.
Oh, thank you.
Well, is it just this or just that? Well, it's sort of a combination, because even if something would happen here, what's your backup plan? Can you get the water off it? Right now, this is a creek bed and it stays right here because it's a lower point. So,
Right. So no sense of resurfacing it until you address this issue right here, because it's going to just like wash out again.
Right.
So might as well address this and then resurface to help the issues down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question for you. So on your itinerary, you had mentioned mile markers or quarter mile markers. What goes into the thought process of where to place those?
Well, for along here, I'd mostly be putting like a mile marker so that there was always 4 feet so I wasn't hitting it, but always making it I could mow behind it. And again, making like a circle that I wouldn't have to come and weed eat it, that it could be more like a teardrop as you were mowing, but always make it that you could mow behind it so that stuff wouldn't grow over.
Does this limestone go over, much like on the trail? How much of the parking lot are we not using and making it more narrower, but trying to get the water from the the pond here, because as you can see, every time you go through here, there's limestone fines dissolved in there. So every time a vehicle goes through here, it splashes the water along with those fines, makes that hole deeper because it disperses the dirt that's suspended somewhere else, and then you have more water there to disperse more. And so we're trying to get it that there's not so much water in.
I feel a lot with explosives. And with explosives, I learned about free faces. And a free face is sort of like going down there. So I never try to make a hole. I'm always trying to make like a free face to work for. So here I'll come here, and that'll be a little easier to actually cut with a shovel and make the next round a little bit deeper, but always having open space for the dirt or the rock or anything to go to.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that I probably screwed up by not keeping my go anywhere. Yeah.
tells you real quick where your high spots are.
So,
And this will actually become softer as water runs over it. And if I was smart enough to have done this when I first got here, instead of doing other things, like when it's a small problem before it becomes a big pond. Yeah, you may not be able to solve everything, but you can make it so that it's not going to keep getting worse and worse. And that people may consider it a Band-Aid, but hey, if it doesn't become infected and doesn't kill you, then the Band-Aid serves its purpose.